Assalamu alaikum. How's everyone?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you, Angela? All good today?
All good, alhamdulillah.
Perfect. Okay.
So everyone, today's show, we'll get right into it. We're going to be talking about symptoms of insulin resistance, and at the end, I'm also going to tell you some foods that help to reduce insulin resistance. Right?
Great. I think this is going to be quite a meaty, very interesting show, and also with you mentioned every time we talk about food and we talk about weight loss or we talk about how to stop cravings, whatever it is, you always go back to insulin. So it's really important now that we get down to all the details about insulin.
To reiterate from the past, insulin is a very important hormone we need. It's a growth hormone. It's released when you eat, especially carbs, whatever form they are in, because they break down to glucose, and glucose needs to be removed from your blood and put in your cells for our own health. So we need insulin. That's why when you have insulin type A, that means your pancreas does not produce any insulin, and you must have it in order to be able to eat, otherwise you can die, right? Type B, though, is an overproduction of insulin, and somehow the doctors in the past have been giving insulin to solve the problem as if you don't have insulin. But now there's new research out there that proves that you can change your type 2 to reverse it by changing your diet, unless you still need a doctor's help, but you can do a lot by changing your lifestyle, right? It's a lifestyle disorder. So a lot of people,
that's quite empowering to hear that even if you get that diagnosis, potentially there's something you can do about it. And we had someone, remember, on the some time ago, who had gone through the NHS diet, to reverse that type 2 diabetes, and he came. You can find that on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. Now a lot of us might not be diabetic, but you might have the symptoms leading to it. And another thing I'll point out to you, our audience, is that if you hear the word metabolic syndrome, it's equals to insulin resistance. That's basically what it means. Right? High glucose, blood pressure.
Metabolic syndrome.
Yeah, it's the same as insulin resistance.
It basically means that there's a problem with your metabolism. Is that what it means?
Basically that. So we're going to talk about 15 symptoms, and then we'll talk about some foods, and hopefully that will get you guys thinking and looking at yourselves, because you have to know yourself. Say before you go to the doctor, hey doctor, I have this, and this, and then have your blood test checked. And sometimes the blood test might not show because it's too early, but if you have certain symptoms, you must change your habits, because habits ultimately is what leads us to disease, because we keep eating stuff that we shouldn't, right? Out of habit. So let's see. It's extremely common to be insulin resistant, especially because of the kind of foods we're eating. It's routinely undiagnosed because doctors just don't look at all those symptoms. But when left untreated, insulin resistance can lead to type 2 diabetes, PCOS, heart disease, and other more serious conditions. However, if you can catch it early, you can stop its progress to these diseases, right? So how do you know if you're insulin resistant? You have to keep listening to our show all the way to the end, and we'll give you a bonus of foods that will help you. Okay, so basically, number one is something that everyone really knows already, is you have to look at your waist to height ratio. If your waist measurement is high in comparison to your height, this is a really strong indicator of insulin resistance. So you take your waist measurement in either centimeter or inches, you divide it by your height, using the same unit. So example, if you started off with centimeters, you stick to centimeters.
Of course,
if you did inches, you stick to... And if anything is over 0.53, that's an indicator that you're insulin resistant. And of course, if your number is higher, you'll be more insulin resistant. And if your number is just over 0.53, you're still in the early stage.
So basically, this is the key number, 0.53. That would be your final.
It's like a little equation you do. Your height divided by your waist.
Yeah, and so that gives you. So if you
actually your waist
divided by your height, yeah,
sorry,
in centimeters. So say waist is about 85 centimeters, and you're about 160 centimeters. So you take that waist divided by 85 divided by 160. That gives you a number.
Yeah,
and so you have to be under 0.53 to be considered healthy in terms of your insulin and your metabolic system.
And
right. Okay.
Obviously, you can do it visually. Sometimes you can tell if all that, but it's good to do by paper and pen calculations.
Yes, definitely.
Right. So you can take it to the doctor too. Right. Number 2, skin tags. The terrible, ugly skin tags that a lot of people have, but that is definitely a symptom of insulin resistance. And why is that? Because these tags develop when someone's insulin is always high, and because insulin is a growth stimulating hormone, that's what happens. This is also the reason that it causes us to gain fat, insulin, because it stimulates things to grow. So that's why a lot of people who start on insulin, they're told to lose weight, but you can't, because insulin is a growth hormone and you're gaining weight.
So skin tags are what? Your
skin tags are little pieces of excess of meat hanging off your.
So it's like the folds you have, maybe.
Not necessarily your folds, but everywhere in your body, like on your neck, if you have little skin tags, little pieces of meat, little tiny things that hang off.
Like extra. That you really does not need to be that you can
you're
see.
Thinking, what is this? Well, it's a sign that you're insulin resistant.
Right.
Right.
Because it has to go somewhere, doesn't it? So it goes into your skin. But
another thing that you can only I would say figure out by doing a test is high triglycerides, and the other thing that goes with that is low HDL cholesterol. So if you have high triglycerides, right, and that's anything above 150 milligrams per deciliter or 1.7 millimolars per liter, that's only by a blood test you can find, and you have low HDL cholesterol, this is a symptom that indicates insulin resistance, and it goes hand in hand with triglycerides. You can have low triglycerides and high. You can have both high or both low. It's possibly unusual if not something is really wrong with you. Only a specialist would know if they've seen cases like this, but it's the ratio between triglycerides and HDL can tell you a lot about your insulin sensitivity or resistance. So
again, that's got something you could potentially, if you feel that you have some of the other symptoms that you can see or feel, you can then go to your GP and ask, look, I think there's something that
and you can ask your doctor to give you or the secretary to give you a printout of your blood test so you can have it and go home and look at it so you can start to understand your body a bit better.
And it's interesting to see what's kind of should be the normal for you, because it's not always as we're so different individually that we could potentially have something that's fairly normal for us, like a simple example, BP, blood pressure, BPM, blood oh god, it's gone. Anyway, when like some people have got a very low
blood pressure,
and so it's like 56, like their base, and others the base is like 65, 69. So if you know what you're regularly, so it doesn't mean that oh my god, I've got a high blood pressure and it's dangerous. No, your heart always works a little bit higher.
We just have to remember that our bodies is always built to homeostasis, which means it's always trying to bring balance. even with adverse conditions. So if you're overweight, your body's trying to put the best blood pressure for your body. Of course, when you lose weight, it'll adjust.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how it goes. Our body's always trying to be in the middle, right?
So to go back to this ratio
back to triglycerides and low HDL cholesterol, there's a Dr. Bickman. You can look up his videos on YouTube and some of his books. He's one of the leading researchers in the field of insulin resistance and calls this triglycerides versus low HDL the poor man's method for testing insulin resistance. And if you have a current cholesterol panel, take your triglycerides and divide them by HDL in milligrams per deciliter. A ratio under 1.9 is considered to be optimal, and this means you have good insulin sensitivity. A ratio between 2 to 3 indicates some insulin resistance, and a ratio over 3 means you're very insulin resistant.
So another good method to use, just to calculate simply whether there is an issue or not.
Yeah.
So that's comparing the triglycerides with the LDL.
Yeah, but you need to have a blood test for that in your hands, and hopefully your doctor will see that. But anyways, if you take it home, you can check it yourself, and then you can insist further or change your lifestyle, right? So another symptom, something that a lot of people have, is high blood pressure. So high blood sugar.
We talked about pressure as long as this is the word we have in our head. High blood sugar.
High blood sugar. Having high fasting blood sugar is another symptom of insulin resistance. High is considered to be anything over 100 milligrams per deciliter or 5.6 millimolars per liter. But here's the thing, insulin resistance can start years or even decades before there's an increase in your fasting blood sugar. So even if you go to the doctor to get your blood tested for your blood sugar and your fasting seems okay, they tell you they're fine, still you could see by looking at the numbers that trouble is coming, like brewing, because it starts years or decades sometimes before.
Yeah.
Right? On fasting blood glucose, but by the time this number has increased enough for you to be considered pre-diabetic or even type 2 diabetic, you have already been insulin resistant for years. So even if you don't have the symptom, if your blood sugar is normal, you can still definitely be insulin resistant. Number 6 are regular menstruals. You could still be.
So basically what you mean is that even if you don't have any other symptoms and then you test yourself for blood sugar, it could be an indication of a pre-indication of something is not quite right, and it's going to end up taking you the wrong route. So it's a good way as well to do that. And that is, I think you can get like some simple tests online for you can just buy them online and get those blood sugar tests. If you don't want to, or if you can't get an appointment with your GP soon enough, or you're curious, you can get this tested.
Okay.
So what's another thing? Because it's quite. You said there were about sort of 15 or something.
So another one is abdominal fat. Obviously, we talked about it with a waist to height ratio. This is again, we're reiterating it. Okay, we touched on this a bit earlier, but even someone who is thin overall but just has a large belly can still be insulin resistant. So you've seen people who are skinny, but then when you look at them in the front, they have a belly sticking out. I mean, I know it's called a beer belly, but usually I've seen it on men. But I guess it could happen to women too, and that's a sign that you're insulin resistant, because the fat is around your organs, and it's because your body is not processing the glucose properly, so it's storing it around your organs, even though overall you're skinny.
Yeah, and you see quite a lot of people like this, and it's quite surprising. So if they knew this, they would They would know, okay, maybe there are things, lifestyle changes.
We tend to ignore things and think, oh, it won't happen to me.
Well, because we say beer belly in our culture and our environment, we probably will not be, falling prey to that. But there's an interesting book called The Wheat Belly.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's basically the same process. Just it's called a beer belly because beer, obviously, it has a lot of.
Beer comes from wheat.
It's got wheat
and wheat. A lot
yeast.
of wheat products. And you could also get even if you're not, your liver could be a fatty liver. Even if you don't drink. In the past, people thought only people who drank get their liver a fatty liver, but now it could happen by just eating things that make you overweight. By a lot of glucose gets stored in there. Okay, so something that's interesting to women, it could imbalance your hormones. If you have an imbalance of hormones, if you have certain symptoms like hair coming out in places where they shouldn't be, that's
like facial hair.
Yeah, facial hair. It's an indication of too much male hormones, and it means, or if your period is inconsistent, or if it's too long. Or you don't have a period at all the
and that
signs.
is obviously outside of the, say, like when you're in 50s and you're perimenopausal. Obviously when you're a bit younger, and it shouldn't happen.
All these are signs that you're insulin resistant and there's a hormonal imbalance, and this is what we would call a polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS. Insulin resistance goes hand in hand with PCOS.
Oh, right.
Okay. So it affects your periods and all of that. And now I know from other people that have had it, the doctors just put you on these hormone pills to help you regulate it. There's no talk about diet. There's never a talk about diet.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you have and it leads to having problems with conceiving.
Yeah.
But that's like a big yarn to unravel when you could just change your lifestyle. If only the doctors knew to give better advice, or could give. I don't know if they're even allowed by the NHS. I'm not really sure. What do you know about that?
No, I wouldn't know. I just know that, and we said that many times, and doctors have agreed with us that yes, there is little education done throughout their university years and medical training that includes nutritional advice or even treatments, to use nutrition as a treatment.
Now we only have a few more symptoms to go through. One is swollen ankles. Another symptom is swollen ankles. It's insulin is telling the kidneys to retain sodium and water if insulin is not being responded to properly, such as the case with insulin resistance. Then fluid is retained and you have ankles that are swollen. So that's a sign that you're insulin resistant.
So interesting that it just focuses on that particular area of the body.
There's another one, dark skin patches. You get it on your on like your elbow, your neck area. Your skin gets darker. Where the folds are, wherever you bend, right? That's a definite sign that you should go and check yourself.
So that would be armpits, neck, groin area, behind the knees then?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Another one that people just chalk it up to being greedy or something. You get cravings, sugar cravings, specifically after you eat. And you've eaten and you're still hungry. That is a sign that you're insulin resistant, and that means your body is not regulating blood sugar levels properly, and it's not able to absorb the glucose and use it for energy. So after you've eaten dinner, you have to basically with these symptoms, you have to take a stock of yourself. You have to sit and think about it.
It's useful to have a diary or like a notepad where you're like, I noticed this, I noticed that, and then you put things together. So let's have a look at the other
high blood pressure is another really common symptom of insulin resistance. Over half of all blood pressure cases are caused by insulin resistance, and it's estimated that this number is actually much higher. Another one is frequent urination. Like if you go to the bathroom a lot, or if you know someone who pees a lot, it's a sign of insulin resistance, because the insulin is not regulating their blood sugar correctly. The kidneys have to take more urine to help pass sugar from the blood.
Right. Okay.
And that's a dead giveaway. And the next symptom goes hand in hand with frequent urination is thirst, like a lot of thirst, extreme thirst. So you're drinking a lot, so you're thinking that's why you're urinating a lot, but something is going wrong here.
Yeah, so basically it feels like you're drinking, but you're not really quenching your thirst. Is that how it feels?
Yeah.
Because, a lot of the time we do feel thirst and we just drink and that's it. And then we can go on again for another little while with that. But that would be really feeling thirsty all the time and feeling like although you're drinking a lot, you're not really satisfying that.
And the frequent urination could happen also, it ruins your sleep because it happens at night too sometimes. And that's no good.
Yeah.
Right? So it is hormonal.
Yeah.
And so a few more. One we've already touched on, the excess hair growth. But one we didn't is acne. Acne is another symptom of insulin resistance, okay? Especially as you get older, but also teenagers. If I see teenagers with a lot of acne, I tend to want to say something to them. Your hormones are imbalanced because you're probably eating too much.
So they think, I'm just having acne because I'm a teenager and that goes with it. But potentially it could also be that they've got something with insulin resistance that is making it worse than
it's imbalancing your hormones. Sugar is known for that anyways in its pure form, but because the young people eat a lot of junk food, to call it, I don't even want to call it food, a lot of junk, they eat a lot of junk, and that affects their hormones. It might taste nice on the tongue, but it's causing havoc to their health. So but the acne is the one that affects women, right? It's a sign that that the hormonal imbalance is out of whack, and it's because it's related to your menstrual or irregular cycle, okay? And it's like male hormones are being produced, making the skin more oilier, and that's when breakouts happen. Okay,
and the breakouts, is it just on the face generally, or should they be looking elsewhere?
I'd say your chest and back as well.
Right. Okay. So it's in different places. So you don't think it's just the face if it's nothing on the face, but then you see a lot of breakouts on your chest and back. That could also be a sign.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So many symptoms I would never have thought of. If you talk about
there's
insulin.
more relating to the skin that I haven't written down, but maybe in another thing. But going back to hair growth, excess hair growth, it's indication of insulin resistance when it comes to women, especially because due to high testosterone, say that properly, testosterone levels, that insulin resistance causes excess hair growth in places that it typically wouldn't see in a woman, like your face, the stomach, the back. And so this is why women with PCOS also have they take this drug called metformin. I don't know if it happens in the UK, but it really does help. But before everybody gets running to their doctor, metformin has other issues that you should be aware of. That's why lifestyle changes can be more effective and less harmful.
And remember, this is a good moment to remind you of our little disclaimer here that we're not doctors. Therefore, whatever we give you here as information is purely information for you to think about, research, and ask your GP about, or your healthcare professional. So we had a look at the 15 symptoms of insulin resistance, but I think it would be useful to just repeat a bit what is insulin and what.
Let me just reiterate the symptoms again.
Yes.
Because I think we were going a bit too fast in my. Okay, so let's see. So symptoms. It's waist to height ratio, blood sugar, blood pressure, excess hair growth,
irregular
periods for women, sugar cravings after eating, dark skin patches,
excessive thirst and urination.
Yeah, thanks for remembering that. Abdominal fat that links with the waist to height ratio.
Yes, at some point we will actually have a show very, very soon about visceral fat as well, to explain that a little bit more in depth.
Don't forget skin tags. That's a big telltale. And the high triglycerides with the low HDL.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now just remind us about what insulin is and what it does and how resistance happens.
So even the researchers are not sure 100% how it happens 100%, but there's two views on it. But insulin, let's go over it again. Insulin is a very important hormone. And you know about it if you have type 1 diabetes, which means your pancreas, this is where the insulin is made. If you don't have it, you're in trouble, and you have to be injected in order to be able to live. Type 2 diabetes comes from excess insulin that your pancreas produces because you're eating more than you need carbs, especially the refined types. And so your body is pumping out more and more and more, and then it comes to a point where you're not making enough for the amount of carbs you're eating. So then the sugar stays in your blood, and you're gonna get
more insulin,
and you get all the symptoms that we talked about, and worse.
So insulin is basically a hormone that regulates the blood sugar.
Yeah.
In a very, very simple, quick term, which is basically, as you said, essential, because there is glucose in all of the foods more or less we eat, but in various amounts and in easier or harder amounts to get rid of. So to regulate in the body.
Exactly. So it regulates your blood sugar, and in other words, it's a storage hormone. So whatever it takes out of your blood, it mops it up. Think of it coming out, mopping up all the sugar and putting it in your cells.
Right.
To keep it out of your blood, because
obviously sugar is when you say sugar, you mean like also the glucose. It's essential for energy.
Because your body recognizes food as its basic molecule. When we say sugar, we're talking about the chemical one, which is glucose. And the foods that break down in glucose are many. We call them carbs or starches, but flour, rice, and all of that. Now,
and very sweet foods.
But also savory things. Anything that's made from flour breaks down to glucose. Fruit. Don't be scared. Nobody's telling you not to eat them. But if you have pre-diabetes or insulin resistance, you have to take control of what you eat and how much you eat.
There's certain foods to avoid or to not eat, eat at the right time, not like in the day.
We cannot eat with sweet abandonment. And as Muslims, we know that you should
moderation.
Eat when you're hungry, not just for the sake
and
of
in moderation,
eating. Right? And what
talking to just a little interesting point about fruits actually is that we've lost as well the habit and the art of eating fruits in season.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned that already in the past. Unfortunately, we have all of these fruits, sweet fruits, all year round, and that's not the natural way of eating. So try and, it's always useful to kind of think, is this fruit in season? Does my body need it right now? Yes, no, etc. So it's good to have that in mind.
If everything is even and there's nothing, you don't have any problems, eating fruit should not be a problem. It's better to eat the fruit than the juice.
Oh,
Juice,
definitely.
you're asking for trouble. I mean, it tastes great and maybe once in a while treat, but thinking that having juice first thing in the morning,
it's pure fructose, which is another sugar, a natural sugar, occurring sugar,
it's
but it's
setting you up for problems. Like as soon as you have it within half an hour, 1 hour, you're gonna be super hungry.
There's no fiber in it to digest it.
Exactly.
So what causes then insulin resistance? We touched on a few things, but let's just have a look at it a bit more.
It's gonna be too much insulin, but the problem, it's not the insulin itself, is that we're eating causing our insulin to be produced. And
there's no rest. So is that like that process of just constantly recruiting, and there's no
you're not giving your body a rest. So that's why it's not a good idea to eat 6 meals a day.
And late at night.
And all kinds. And then what you eat does count. let's face it, 100 calories of a cookie is not the same as 100 calories of a broccoli. It doesn't react the same. Your body doesn't react the same.
Or even of meat.
Exactly. So people have been listening to this advice in terms of weight loss, but it's not really good advice, because 100 calories of cookie is not the same as broccoli or meat. You know. So when you eat a meal, this is how it works, okay? When you're eating a meal containing carbohydrates, those carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, and your blood sugar rises. As a result of this rise, the pancreas releases insulin. It releases it into the bloodstream to shuttle the excess sugar to your cells throughout the body, and this brings your blood sugar levels back down to baseline. But sometimes our cells stop responding to insulin correctly and do not accept, and this leads to blood sugar levels remaining higher than they should and more insulin being secreted as a result. So now you're in a situation where your blood sugar is high and your insulin is high also. So now insulin is also known as the fat storage hormone, because if you think about it, when your insulin levels are high, this means you have a surplus of glucose in your bloodstream, which is energy, and because your body thinks you have all this excess energy ready to use, there's no need to use your stored body fat for energy. And because your insulin is always elevated, when you're insulin resistant, this can make it really difficult to lose weight and lead to side effects.
Right. So really, it's the crux of the matter is to try and reduce that insulin. So you mentioned earlier that there are obviously there are obviously medical ways of countering this, but especially when you have this sort of early symptoms that you described earlier, that would indicate you are going down that route. There are ways, I know you, Angela, I'm sure you have worked out ways that with your food, with the way you eat, you can make changes that would then reduce that risk of insulin resistance. So what have
So I'm going to tell you some strategies. I'm just going to remind you that don't panic. I know it has to do with, especially moms who cook and run a household, and you have other people to worry about, that it's hard to change because people resist change. They feel threatened. Yeah. And it takes time. Ask me, even I'm a nutritionist.
And to be fair, as moms of big families, we know, easy, quick meals, pasta, rice, everything. They feel like they're filling you up and everything, and you feel like, oh, that's it. I have fed my family.
Personally, I've gotten to bad habits over the years of raising 6 kids to make a lot of food. First of all, so I don't have to cook over and over, because it gets tiring. But now, when almost everybody's gone, they all complain I cook too much food, and I need to change also my habit of cooking too much food. Then it goes to waste.
And in these times of inflation, everything, still the cheapest food are generally not the best for you. So it's quite hard. There's all these things to take into account, but there are ways of not breaking the bank.
There are some foods that I will suggest for if your budget is let's say basic.
Yeah, or limited. Okay? Yeah.
But let's first go over some strategies. If you want to reduce your insulin levels, therefore fighting your insulin resistance, you can do a few things. First, you follow a lower carb, lower starch eating plan. Okay. You could notice your portion sizes, right? Because remember we linked it back to if you eat dinner and you're still hungry in 1 hour, and then you're eating again. That's portion size. You're eating more than you need to, right? Eat less sugar, okay? And this will lead you to reading packages before you buy things. You have to check out the sugar, if it's 1 or number 2 or number 3 in the package. Still, that's too much sugar. But also, sugar comes in different under different names. So maybe in one show we'll talk about the different names of sugar so you guys recognize them. But that's for another show. Prioritize physical activity, also known as increase your activity level. It really does help with regulating your blood sugar. right?
So what sort of things, I mean, do you have to just like go to the gym and run on the treadmill for hours and hours, or is it just like getting off your chair and walking, being a bit more active on a regular basis?
Well, you need to implement physical activity. It's going to take time. Some people, it helps them to go to the gym, but if you're just getting started, start walking, start being more, instead of taking the car, walk, instead of taking the elevator, take the stairs. Increase your activity level, and no matter what, like a friend of ours recommended, instead of sitting on the sofa, squat on the floor and try to do. That's actually very difficult to do, but whatever you do, you need to increase it. Don't feel bad if you can't do it. It just, you start with 1 minute, and then it increases. You'll be able to do it more and more and more. So that's, as long it takes a long time to get into bad habits. And it takes a long time to change to better habits, but it's doable. Okay, and a few things that you could do when you're eating carbs is to add curcumin, cinnamon,
turmeric,
depending on the food, and also apple cider vinegar. Those 3 foods really do help with digestion. And if you're gonna eat carbs, choose the complex carbs,
so
not
complex carbs are,
well, anything brown. I wouldn't say the flour, but brown rice, quinoa. I don't eat them a lot now. So do you?
Yeah.
You can.
Oats, I think, are part of complex carbs.
But not the ones that are in little sachets. No, the rolled oats. That you have to
rolled
cook,
oats. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Now let's talk about a few foods that will help you. Right? When you eat, the best thing to do is first eat your protein. Okay, protein helps to slow down your appetite.
So that's first thing in the morning when you wake up, like when you have your breakfast. So you would just, obviously, as you said earlier, ditch the orange juice.
No orange juice, no toast.
So you would have then what, an egg or
well,
cheese?
If you're gonna eat bread, I'm gonna tell you something. Eat real bread. The bread you find in the supermarket is not real bread. So unless you can make it yourself, sourdough bread or bread made from soaked sprouts. There is good bread out there. You have to make an effort.
And if you really can't, then choose seeded brown bread over the white sliced bread.
Yeah, that's like the lowest. So an hierarchy of things.
To make it, reasonable for people. And also, we talked about implementing change. One of our earliest shows, and what we said is that don't try and change everything all in one go. Just try and change what is reasonable. So, for instance, yes, you can't start making your own bread right now. Fine. Just try and switch slowly. Start switching from the 50-50 bread, from completely white to 50-50.
And also to get the kids used.
Then from 50-50 to another one, and be a bit firm as well. Say, look, this isn't much better, and you train your palate to be used to new tastes and textures.
And even the cereals, you can go into better versions, right? Now, let's move quickly through a list of foods that are really good for you. So you eat protein, you have eggs, olive oil, ghee, salmon. If you eat fish, you have ginger, apple cider vinegar, cinnamon. All those are things to add to your food to reduce how your body modulates blood sugar.
It's interesting because a lot of the things you mentioned, I actually think that are part of a traditional diet. So turmeric, curcumin is found in all Asian dishes.
Yeah,
very healthy.
Even cinnamon. It goes with rice pudding, and you used to think,
North African,
but now we know that cinnamon helps the rice pudding for your body to digest it and not cause such a high spike in your insulin.
Apple cider vinegar
with your fries, you can eat with potatoes. Even here in the British Isles, potatoes traditionally were eaten with vinegar, and you thought, what an odd choice. Well, now we know that the vinegar with the potatoes, it helps the blood sugar be digested better, slows it down, which is very amazing that they did it in the past. Somehow they knew it. I don't know how they knew it, but that's how it went.
Same thing with fries. Yeah, I always thought it was really odd to sprinkle malt vinegar, even malt vinegar, on fries, and actually vinegar helps to break down the fat. And the ghee, go back to ghee. We've mentioned that many times as well. Ghee, go back to ghee, ladies.
Yes, for Indian
and
cooking,
men who cook.
It brings out the best of your spices, which are so good for you.
Please use ghee that you make yourself, not the ghee in a tub. That
even better.
That has been.
And for God's sake, please don't buy something called a vegetarian ghee, unless it's made from palm oil. I read the ingredients. There's ghee's made from palm oil, so I suppose palm oil is a
from
good
sustainable
fat.
Sources, please. Palm oil.
We have a lot of this, but anyways, whatever you can afford, try your best. The cheapest protein, if you can afford to have expensive cuts of meat, is eggs. Buy yourself eggs. Try to buy them free range or organic. Okay, but whatever you can afford. Eggs are still better for you. Ground meat is something, if you can afford expensive cuts. Chicken. And
tinned fish as well. Mackerel.
Yeah.
Got very healthy fats as well in there.
So. But remember to eat protein first, because it really does help you, okay? And an important thing that Muslims do in Ramadan, but you can use it throughout the year, is intermittent fasting with modifications. So all those things hopefully will help you to reduce your symptoms and keep you away from diabetes.
This is so essential, I think, very empowering. Again, this is what we try to do in our show, don't we? To give you tips and give you ways to be aware of situations, problems, how to not self-diagnose is a big word, but like to be aware of what the issues you may have that you might not be aware could be related to a deeper problem, and then find ways
to solve it.
To
solution
improve.
Oriented.
Even if you can't solve the whole thing, you can mitigate the impact, you can mitigate some of the risks with the help of your GP, with maybe sometimes you have to have medication, there's no choice.
Exactly.
But there's always something else you can do, and whatever, even if people might tell you, the GP might tell you, or you might think, well, I don't think changing my food that way or that this will have such a big impact. It cannot do you any harm.
No, it won't.
To go towards a healthier lifestyle. I mean, recently there was several articles that were showcasing Dr. Mosley. We mentioned him in the past as well. He's kind of I like him.
He's one of our favorites.
I like him. He's got great shows on the BBC Radio 4 called Just One Thing. He's the one who brought the idea of intermittent fasting, developed it in the UK and abroad, and even mentions the Muslim fast and the regular fast on Mondays and Thursdays and the white days.
We can't fault him.
Yes, exactly. He discovered something we knew all along, but his approach is really interesting because he made it just simple, mainstream. So he's mentioning how intermittent fasting, having a keto diet sometimes where you remove all of your starchy carbs for a while, just to kickstart your metabolism in a different way, give it a little bit of it's like rebooting your computer. Come on, it's not working, I'm just going to force to shut everything.
A lot of people, when they hear removing carbs, oh no, I have to have a lifestyle that is sustainable. Yes, but if you have a problem, then you have to find a way to remove that. And this is the best way to do it, is to remove the carbs, be it temporarily.
Exactly. It's like Ramadan.
Changing your habits, and then slowly introducing it. It's not like forever.
It's like Ramadan.
Yeah.
We're not expected to fast all year round. No, we're supposed to be 30 days. That's a body reset, basically, a system reset, reboot, and then we go back to a normal way of eating with occasional fasting. So that's what it says. If you really want to reduce dramatically, go into keto for a while, then go back into a more varied diet.
Yeah.
But Mediterranean diet. My God, that's a mouthful. Where as you said, olive oil, healthy fats, vegetables of all sorts of colors.
Well, to be fair, only for the
And
Europeans, Mediterranean diet is good. But if you also eat like Chinese food, like where there's a lot of stir fries involved,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
very good for you. If you eat healthy fats, stir fries, protein, I believe every nation has their own traditional diet that has helped them.
But if you look across the diets, a lot of the, except if you go to maybe some very different sort of like lifestyle or tribes or communities like the Maasai, who virtually exclusively eat meat, they're carnivores. That's because of where they are. The whole body is designed to just survive on this super efficiently. But maybe you wouldn't want to all of a sudden tomorrow, oh, that's it, I'm not going to have anything else but meat. All of this, any change you implement, just go gradually, remove, change, modify gradually. Some people, as we said again in our show about implementing new habits, some people like cold turkey. I'm like this. I've realized something the day after I'm implementing it. I don't go through stages because it's too tempting for me to just like, oh, I'll have a bit of that, I'll have a bit of that. I prefer to kind of say no. It's a bit like Ramadan. That's it. No choice.
I love Ramadan because
no choice.
That's it. And I've said before, I wish a few other things that I shouldn't have.
Yes.
In quotations, I wish they were haram, so that would be easy to say. Okay, if it's haram, then.
Yeah.
But if you have a choice,
yes.
Oh boy, oh boy. Well, that's why we overdo it when we break the fast in Ramadan. Your brain's flooding you with all your bad habits, foods that you didn't have. Give me this.
This is what it feels a bit in the morning. You know, the breakfast when you're like, oh, I've not eaten the whole night. But be aware. Actually, ask yourself this question: am I waking up hungry or not? If you're not waking up hungry, you ate too much too late at night. Wake up hungry. So, kind of stop eating a bit earlier in the evening. And then when you wake up hungry in the morning, this is the right moment to eat. And it might be that it's not at the first minute you wake up. You might have to wait a little bit to start, and the metabolisms kickstart. Nutritionists actually do advise to wait sometimes even an hour before you start eating. Your body's not awake to digest everything you're putting through.
And remember, whatever you eat at breakfast sets you up for your next meal. So if you're gonna eat a bowl of cornflakes, a bowl of empty calories, empty food,
you're gonna be hungry.
You're gonna be hungry so much faster. And it hasn't done anything for you. But if you have, for example, eggs in the morning, with, like, say a British breakfast minus the sugary beans and the bacon, but you can replace it with other stuff, that will set you up for the day.
True.
For hours and hours and hours. You will have energy, won't be sleepy. So remember, the meal before the meal sets you up for the next meal. So even in Ramadan, whatever you eat for iftar will affect your suhoor, how you're feeling at suhoor time.
This is the end of our show, Angela.
Hope we've shown some light and you learned something new, and that we are being of some assistance in helping our community to improve their diet and stay away from disease.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.